I'm Gab. He's Jules. Blue skies over West London. And not so much the football club in West London, and we'll be getting to that in a minute. But we are through. We've had a 3-goal first leg deficit overturned. Who'd have thought that? Sorry, Boda. We have our quarterfinal matchups. We'll be breaking all of that down. Big news out of CAF.
Oh, incredible.
We have new AFCON champions.
2 months later, yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
Because you can be sure there are going to be more appeals. We'll get into all of that, but I think we have to start with Chelsea.
Yeah.
Chelsea hammered at home by Paris Saint-Germain 3-0. Obviously, they lost the first leg 5-2. So it was obviously always going to be uphill there.
Yeah.
We're talking about the game. At the top, though, we need to know about the big news that came out Monday. They were punished by the Premier League. This is the old story about their 10 bazillion counts of illegal payments to agents that date back to the Abramovich era. They made a big deal like, record fine. Like, yeah, it's not that much.
No,
it's like 10.75 million.
Yeah. Exactly.
A 9-month academy transfer ban, which I'm guessing does not apply to Strasbourg. And also a year-long first-team transfer ban, which is suspended. So I guess if they make illegal payments again. Now, a lot of this is because it was self-reported. We're going to look at this a little bit later.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on at Chelsea. The other thing, I want to start with like the stupid stuff, but it was so stupid that I feel like I need to mention it. Rosenior is getting absolute pelters right now. There was a weird thing with the huddle and respecting the ball at the weekend, which I guess you and Nadim talked about on Monday. Now, there was 3-0 down or 2-0 down. He sends on Garnacho, and he gives Garnacho detailed instructions. There's 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, they were 3-0 down, yeah.
What's going on?
I don't know, to give it to Tosin, it's on the shallow by injury. So, I was sat just behind him. I could not believe it either, to be fair. And Garnacho, who then gets the piece of paper, he's walking towards Tosin to give him the instructions. And I guess of the reshuffling of the defense because Shalobah is coming off. And but it looks surreal that at that moment in time, after pretty much everything that Liam Rosenior tried in this game didn't work out, failed. That he thinks it's a good idea at that time, caught by all the cameras, obviously. But even the Chelsea fans who were not far from me could see and were like, what is going on here?
Yeah. We're going to talk about him some more. You have to. I'm all for you want to do new age stuff like the huddle or even the notes. That's normal. But you have to be aware of how it's going to be perceived and how people are going are going to perceive you. And I don't think he helped himself there. But let's talk European champions, Paris Saint-Germain. Mr. Negative, after the 3-1 loss to Monaco. The wheels are coming off. The Club World Cup ruined everything for us. How close are you to last year's level?
Oh, far away. There was nothing against them in this game. Chelsea were horrendous. In the first leg was a bit different. In the second leg there was nothing. So I want to see a better opposition, a team with more cohesion. I'm not sure if Liverpool will offer that in the quarterfinal, but certainly it's better from PSG. It's still, for me, it's still far from what we saw in the second half of last season.
So for me, one of the fascinating aspects were over the two ties, Paris Saint-Germain's expected goals, depending how you count them, were around 2.
Yeah.
Chelsea actually had high expected goals.
In both games,
In both games. But it's 2 cumulative over the 2 legs, and yet Paris Saint-Germain scored 8 goals.
Yeah.
I think this is what, I read an interesting comment about this, but this is when you have outstanding individual talent who can pull off shots and score goals that others cannot, those bad chances become much more relevant. When you also consider that arguably on 4 of the 8 goals that Paris Saint-Germain scored over the 2 legs, there were craven defensive errors from Chelsea.
Yeah.
Does this speak a little bit to why you say we're not at last year's level?
Yeah, absolutely. But then there was still a lot of really good things that they did in this game. The rotations in midfield through the whole team tactically were incredible. Again, I think Luis Enrique just schooled Liam Rosenior, but maybe it's just normal. Rosenior is a young coach, nowhere near as good as Luis Enrique, nowhere as experienced as Luis Enrique, so he will learn a lot from it. But tactically, there was like a world apart, really. But you're right. It's still the first leg is not a 5-2 game. We said that after it. The second leg is a little bit different, obviously. But yeah, I want to see more of this PSG team against better opposition.
All right, Jules, let's continue on Paris Saint-Germain for a second, because we need to show respect to the Club World Cup runners-up. No,
Yes, thank you.
To the debate. All right, when we talk about the level that they're at, they had good points, bad points. Is it just because last season, and it's not like, by the way, it's not like they were atrocious in the first half of last season. There's this narrative. Yes, they struggled. They had to go through the playoffs and whatnot.
Yeah.
But they were still right up there in Ligue 1, right? In the first half of the season.
Yeah.
We've seen that happen. Like, teams do go through the playoffs. When we talk about how they're behind, all right, for me, one obvious area where they're behind is the goalkeeper. But obviously, that doesn't have to do with the way they play. When you see the way they play, now that most of the injured guys, other than Fabien Ruiz, are back. And by the way, Fabien Ruiz gets replaced by Warren Zaire-Emery, who's, it's not like he's like some guy off the street. He's a very good footballer. Young, but a good footballer. Who do you think is furthest behind the level that you expect them to be at, or is it a collective thing?
I think it's a bit of both, really.
All right, let's deal with the individuals first.
Yeah.
Doué,
Doué, apart from the Monaco first leg, where he was outstanding when he came on, not at the level of the second half of last season, really. Kvaratskhelia is the one, maybe the closest, but again, by moments, where he has those moments, like when he came on in the first leg, or even he was outstanding in the whole second leg. But I think at times he kind of picks his games a little bit. What was last season? He finished so strongly in every game. Dembele got a lot of injuries. He's coming back to he's so important to this team collectively and individually, but he's still coming back to that kind of level. Vitinha is not as good as last season because he's played too many games and he looks tired. Joao Neves just coming back from an injury. Zaire-Emery, I think.
And Joao Neves also, I know there's a lot of young players, but I feel like what he did last season, I don't know if you agree on this, is what I'm asking. Like, he's still, was he 20, 21?
21, yeah.
I played 21 in central midfield. That when you don't just have one job, because in this system, right, there's a level of playmaking, there's a level of defending, there's a level of making runs and goal scoring. I mean, that is a really, really big ask. And so you're going to have maybe more highs and lows than another young player might. Yeah, there's a reason we don't often see people at that age, unless it's Pedri, starting in midfield, central midfield. It's more likely if we went to with wingers or center backs or center forwards, right?
Yeah. I mean, for him, it's more the injuries really that have slowed him down this season, because I think the rest would not have changed compared to last season. The job he did on Cole Palmer in the 2 legs is just incredible for somebody of his age, really. So I think it's more, again, the injuries which PSG compared to last season have obviously been impacted a lot by. Or if they haven't, like Pacho and Vitinha, they've played so much for the last 18 months that they are, showing it, really. So it's just that. But what was pleasing, I think, in the 2 games, and especially to some extent the second leg more than the first leg, was that collective strength that they've showed again, like last season. The energy a bit more than what we saw, like Hakimi, the first leg in the 90th minute when he gives the cross for Kvaratskhelia, 94th minute. Keep still running at high intensity after 90 minutes of going up and down the pitch is really good. Same in the second leg, where fitness-wise, clearly PSG were very strong, and they didn't play at the weekend when Chelsea played Newcastle, for example. So that would have been an advantage. And that won't be the case against Liverpool, because in between the 2 Liverpool games is the last PSG game, and Lens don't want that game postponed, unlike Nantes. So they will have to play that game on the Sunday. But their fitness is also, it looks like a much better level than anything we've seen this season. So that's encouraging.
You mentioned Lens there, and this is one thing I sometimes wonder about, right? On paper, it should be better when you have the league title wrapped up. You have a big lead, so you can rest players and stuff like that. There's other schools of thought that say, actually, if you have some level of competitive tension, if you're still playing for something, you're more locked in. Yes, you may be physically more fatigued, but mentally,
Yeah.
there's a difference. So this season, even though Lens lost at the weekend, which means that if they win the head-to-head, they can't overtake Paris
Yeah.
Saint-Germain unless
Yeah.
Paris Saint-Germain drop points this
Yeah,
weekend,
yeah.
right? And PSG still have the game in hand.
Yeah.
How do you see it? I mean, from what we've seen, because we've seen Paris Saint-Germain wrap up the title in March in past
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
and we've seen others where it's taken a lot longer.
Yeah.
Where would you rather be?
It's a good question, Gabby. I don't know. Luis Enrique said the other day that he prefers those big games, like you mentioned, one of the two theories that you mentioned.
So he
doesn't
prefers
mind.
having the league go down to the wire.
Well, that at least having that Lens game, which could be the final of the league in a way, if you want to, between the two Liverpool games, is not ideal. I think he would agree to that. But you're right. You keep your players in that bubble for this week of Liverpool, Lens, Liverpool again, and you've got this kind of bubble that you build in, and the players are locked in, and they've got that super focus that maybe if you play Metz instead of Lens, people don't really take it seriously, and that so
or you might be tempted to play, more Mayulus
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Baez
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the B team.
yes, maybe as well. So we see. By the time they play that game, the Lens game, they might be 4, 6, 7 points above, maybe, or might just be down to 1 again. We'll see, and maybe that will have an influence on what Luis Enrique does in terms of game plan, starting 11, all of that. So we'll see.
All right, let's talk Chelsea. Let's start with the punishment. Now, they faced, I think it's 74 counts, and there's still an FA charge to come. So they're charged both by the Premier League and by the Football Association. They were also charged by UEFA. They resolved that. So these date back to payments that were made by companies linked to Roman Abramovich, essentially mostly to agents and middlemen, intermediaries, to quote unquote facilitate transfers.
Yeah.
And these are payments off the books. So there's two aspects. One is they're off the books, so they don't show up in financial fair play, which is a thing. But the other thing is kind of like, if you pay somebody in cash, you pay somebody off the books, it's not traceable. The implication is, given the sides too, is that these may well have been kickbacks.
Yeah.
These were linked to a whole bunch of high-profile players, Eden Hazard being the most notable one, but also David Luiz, Nemanja Matic, Willian. Andre Shirley, not so much.
Maybe
but I mean, these are very, very serious charges.
Yeah.
Now, I think Chelsea's owners might have suspected this because when they took over the club, they held back 100 million. Believing perhaps, or saying, just in case, we're going to do a forensic accounting and we're going to see if these payments exist. And they found the payments, and then they said, all right, they self-reported themselves. So Chelsea will say, look, it's a record fine. These things happened by the previous owner a long time ago. Others are going to say, well, hang on a minute. This is not sufficient. There should be a point deduction too. And the reason there should be a point deduction, they would say, is you were able to build a dominant position because you won titles and Champions League titles with these players who you got by doing something illegal.
Yeah.
That dominant position allows you to have more money, allows you to be a bigger, stronger club today.
Yeah.
And we need compensation today. We need to redress this today. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a BS punishment, to be fair, completely. I think
you think you should get points docked?
That 10 million is nothing for Chelsea. The suspended year-long first-team transfer ban is just ridiculous. We agree on that. The academy one, they're so strong at academy level anyway. It's not 9 months without being able to sign the most promising 12-year-old of London that will disturb this Chelsea academy anyway. So for me, this is complete BS, those sanctions and that punishment. The fact that it was so long ago, I think probably played a part in why the Premier League was okay with the fine and the suspended transfer ban. But personally, I don't think it's enough. There certainly would have been other ways of hitting them harder and in a way making a precedent. Because if I'm another team, if I'm Aston Villa right now, thinking like, oh, a team like that, or Newcastle, I think like, I'll do the same. Because, okay, now it's different. But imagine in theory, I'll do the same. I'll pay off some agents, so I'm sure to sign
Yeah.
Pedri and Lamine Yamal, and they will come to us instead of going to City or Arsenal or
Right.
Bayern or PSG. And then in 6 or 7 years' time, like Chelsea, because those go back a long time, then we're going to get a fine and a suspended transfer ban. So why not doing the same?
No, because I think so the counter argument to that would be, yeah, you can do that, but you have to sell the club at that point. Because a big part of the reason is that there's a new ownership. Right?
Yeah.
So they're saying, is it fair to Bowley and Ibali and Clear Lake that we punish them for things that happened not just a long time ago?
Yeah, but by a previous owner.
By a previous owner, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I think so to do this, you would have to cheat, add a lot of value to your club, sell it.
Yeah.
And then you could get away with
have
it,
a bit of
potentially.
freedom for that.
The irony,
But you see what I mean? My idea is like, for that, I think others will look at it and say, okay, well, we can do the same then.
Yeah. This is very serious stuff. Like anecdotally, I don't want to get anybody in trouble or get the lawyers involved, but we know kickbacks and illegal payments to agents.
Yeah.
And there's legal ones too, obviously.
Yeah,
right?
sure, of course, they're commissioned.
This happens. This happens to different degrees. This is how certain players end up in certain places. And until we have greater transparency, we really hold clubs to account. None of this like, oh, no, that's privileged information. Oh, no, we can't reveal the It's all nonsense.
Yeah.
And when clubs complain about it, I mean, I was with UEFA people and they know that all clubs are always complaining about the amount of money that they have to pay to agents and stuff like that. I mean, we've heard about the Holland deal and whatever. Yeah. You guys, you're the guys paying it. You guys come out and say, hey, to sign player X, we had to pay Bob and his uncle $10 million.
Yeah.
Come out and say it.
Yeah.
Hey, what is stopping you? If you have nothing to hide, otherwise you are breaking rules. And until the clubs realize this and voluntarily come forward with this, there's going to be risks that this continues. Let's switch it over to Rosenior. Okay, this kind of new age guru vibe with the glasses, and he speaks well. I've been in this country long enough to know that there's still a sense of what a football man should look like, especially if he's English.
Yeah.
He does not look like a football man. He looks like the kindly, which is ironic because, of course, he was a professional footballer for 12 years. His dad was a professional footballer, right? But when you go out there with the glasses, he's an educated guy, which I don't think helps you, frankly.
Yeah.
Right? They put up with, educated Wenger, the professor, the glasses and stuff like that when it's a foreigner. And even then, Wenger had to take a long time to go and convince people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's a certain idea. You have gone completely against that idea. On top of that, you layer other things on, respect the ball, the huddle, this stuff with the notes, 5 minutes from time. You're unnecessarily hurting yourself. I watched it came up on my YouTube feed. I didn't even know this, but Nicky Butt, who I like a lot, Paul Scholes, I don't like as much as Nicky Butt. They're doing this thing and they're absolutely killing him for the huddle, for this. This was before the notes, right?
Yeah.
This forms public opinion. And once that goes over into the fans, and the fans quickly turn against you.
Yeah.
And maybe some players too.
Yeah.
And it's unnecessary.
Yeah, I know. I would agree with that. I mean, the huddle is not his idea. It's Rhys James' idea. I think he went along. The players wanted to do it.
But what about this respect the ball nonsense?
I think that's his interpretation of what they're doing, that kind of thing.
So
but
maybe if it's Rhys James' idea, you let Rhys James talk about it and just shut up
sure.
about it.
But then he's asked every 3 days because he does a million press conferences every week. He's asked about it. He has to answer. His communication at times, I can agree, doesn't always go down well with fans and
he's too intelligent.
Maybe
he's too intelligent.
But he's not helping himself either, Gab, when he says, in manage, you've got man and age, and we are here. And I'm
it's the new age stuff. It's like he's got like.
I know, and I love him.
He listens to self-help podcasts. You know that. He's got that.
But I like the fact that he sees the game differently. He behaves differently than old school managers, for example. He was very good in France. I think he's a really good coach. I think he's young, and I think he's showing that. He's showing it on the touchline. What he does, like the piece of paper to Garnacho, for example, I don't think that came from a bad intention. He was so focused on the game. Didn't matter if it was the 84th minute, 3-0 down, etc. He wanted his defense to change something because one player was coming off injured. So I can get that. I think a lot of the criticism is really harsh on him. However, despite all of the positive I've just said, he makes calls that are not working. He tries things that don't come off. He sometimes probably thinks a little bit too hard about what to do and not to do. And despite some really good things at times with the ball, and I think again there's something there for me that says that he will become a really good manager one day. One is just there, he's not there yet. But again, maybe it's normal, he's so young and so inexperienced. But two, he's not helping himself with some of the decisions.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. We'll become a really good manager one day. I think the question is, will it be at Chelsea?
Will he be there next season?
Yeah. And by the way, I was just thinking about this. If I look at like Europe's top teams, okay, I'm 99% sure Arteta will be back, and I'm 99% sure Company will be back, and Hansi Flick too. Other than that, for me,
Enrique as well.
He's so weird though.
No.
Okay, all right, okay.
Luis
But
Enrique
yeah, he
was-
does find him really unpredictable.
No, but-
Other than that, I think of like the top teams, there's a decent chance that many of these guys won't be there. So this really could be a massive
absolutely.
summer. But that's just an aside. In terms of the other factor, which is still the elephant in the room, is, and I said this for Maresca as well, this is a really badly put together side.
Yeah, but it's not a bad squad. It's
but
badly structured, but it's not a bad
okay,
squad.
no. Nobody's saying he has bad players.
I'm
Although
just saying.
I also think some of these players are really overvalued. You're buying potential,
maybe,
which is
yeah,
part of the
yeah.
business model,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But and so he faces the same struggle in making the pieces fit. So he's gone in a different direction.
Yeah.
The thing you argued that, okay, I need to play Enzo plus Caicedo plus another, runner in midfield.
It's pretty
Fine.
obvious,
And
yeah.
My five, okay, it's very obvious. It wasn't so obvious to the 5 sporting directors who said, let's assemble 1 billion wingers.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Or the Nico Jackson. I go back to the Nico Jackson. I'm not, I don't, as you know, I'm not a Nico Jackson guy. But really? We moved him to make room for Delap and Guiu? Really? And Joe Pedro, who's really more of a 10, fantastic as he is, and yeah, he can do a job. What happens if Joe Pedro gets hurt? How fun is the rest of the season going to be?
No, I know.
Like, these things, and this is a situation he inherited, and it's crap that Maresca had to deal with as well.
Yeah.
And when Maresca started acting funny, which ultimately cost him his job on New Year's Eve, I might add, there was a reason behind it. And so at that point, who's going to carry the can? The 5 directors of football or Rosenior?
Yeah.
So it's still uphill. Do we still, even with the English debate?
I saw people leaving on the hour mark, which I've never seen. You go to Stamford Bridge far more than me.
Yeah, I've seen it before.
Because half an hour, the discontent within that fan base was so big. And he was 2-0 down. He took Enzo, Palmer, and Joao Pedro, so his 3 best players off, which I think a lot of the fans, it's not that they didn't understand, because you play Everton this weekend, you're in the fight to finish top 5, which is not guaranteed. I can understand that-ish, because all they wanted, I think, in that second half, at 2-0 down, was just for the players to show a bit of pride and fight back. I think they knew that you could not qualify, but they just wanted a bit of that. If they had stayed on the pitch, come back to 2-2, I think the fans would have been happy with that in a way. Instead, it took them 3 off to bring 3 players on that obviously not at the same level. Mayulu scores a great finish, and then 3, and then the boos and the toxicity of the crowd gets even bigger. And I just didn't really understand that move from him again. So to go back to that point, he's not helping himself.
My friend Stu dropped $4,000 on tickets when the draw came out, flew him and his wife and his family over, and left at halftime.
Yeah. I feel
so
for people like him, for sure.